Hello, everyone. I'm going to do one last audio check. If you can hear me, can you please type in the chat? It's going to take a moment. If you can hear me, please type in the chat. All right. Lots of comments. Thanks, everyone. Well, good afternoon, and welcome to Workday Core Concepts, the Foundation Data Model and Supervisory Organizations. And today's topic is for the Human Resources and Payroll community. My name is William Ashley, and I'm the Director for Communications and Engagement from the Enterprise Project. I came to the Enterprise Project from the Office of Human Resources, where I served on the communications team, and I'm joined today by colleagues from the change management, HR, and payroll areas, and I'll ask them to introduce themselves.
Thanks, William. My name is Amanda John Donato, and I have been with OSU for about 5.5 years now. I started at the Comprehensive Cancer Center as an HR associate, and after that, I was an immigration specialist for the College of Medicine. And for the past 1.5 years now, I have been a change analyst on the Enterprise Project, specifically focused on HR.
And I'm Gina Thorpe. I am in the HR core, serving as the lead of that functional area. I've been with Ohio State for almost 9 years in the Office of Human Resources and have come through a number of different roles through that office.
And I'm Christina Cardenas. I'm currently on the payroll work stream over payroll, accounting, and commitments. I've been at Ohio State. I'm going on 15 years.
Great. So Amanda and myself will be your presenters today, and Gina and Christina are on hand in case we have any specific questions for our business process teams. So a quick few housekeeping notes. This session has one-way audio only. That means you can hear us, but we can't hear you. But we still want to get your feedback and questions. So please use the chat feature on the lower right-hand side of your Karma Connect window to ask questions and to provide feedback throughout the session. Also, please note the session is being recorded, and it'll be made available both to participants and those unable to attend. And please note that our intent today is to go over some basic concepts of Workday's Foundation Data Model and Supervisory Organizations. Please note that you'll have more specific training on these topics much closer to our July 2020 Go Live. And please just consider this an informational session to begin building some basic understanding and awareness of these core concepts. And just for you to know what the trajectory is for this core concept series, late last year, many of you likely attended Workday 101, which was the first in the series of information sessions on some of these Workday core concepts. Today we're covering FDM, the Foundation Data Model and Supervisory Organizations. And you'll see on this slide that we've identified a few other topics to bring to you over the next several months, including the Workday staffing models, business processes, academic appointments, and security and reports in Workday. We look forward to covering these core concepts with you over the next several months. But for today, I'm going to kick it off to Amanda, who will cover some important terms related to Workday and kind of recap some Workday 101 concepts. She'll give you an overview of the Foundation Data Model and key concepts, Supervisory Organization introduction, followed by a demonstration in the Workday environment of supervisory organizations, and then we'll go through next steps. Amanda?
Thanks, William. Okay, so to get started, I want to take a minute to point out that some of the terminology you are used to using will be changing as we move to Workday. For example, the term appointment today we use interchangeably with the terms job and position. However, in the future with Workday, having an appointment, specifically called an academic appointment, will be distinct from a job or position in Workday. And in addition to these, you will hear me use new terminology, such as the additional ones listed, throughout today's session, and I will provide context and definition as we go. It is not expected that you have mastery of these terms by the end of the hour by any means. This is not a training, as William said, and really an opportunity to start building awareness around new concepts in Workday. They will become more familiar to you with more exposure, so we encourage you to continue to attend these learning opportunities that are offered to build your knowledge. And as a reminder, if you want to familiarize yourself with more Workday terms and for a more robust terminology glossary of all things Enterprise Project and Workday, this can be found on the Enterprise Project website. So to start out today's session, we must first begin with introducing the Foundation Data Model, or FDM, of Workday. Each Workday product Ohio State is using, financials, human capital management, and student, are intertwined. FDM includes key financial components, supervisory organizations, and academic foundations. The financial component is a multifaceted classification system that allows users to attach common keywords or work tags to transactions. Work tags in the financial structure will replace Ohio State's chart of account segments. There will be standard definitions and values for all work tags across the university and Wexner Medical Center, eliminating user-defined tags that we use today. By labeling information with work tags that are shared between business areas, the university can effectively report and analyze data. The financial component will impact the entire Workday platform, given the overlapping data needs of units around the university. The second essential component of FDM is Supervisory Organizations, or SUP-orgs. And today, you'll hear me use Supervisory Organizations and SUP-orgs interchangeably. A SUP-org is a logical grouping of employees who report to the same manager and serve as the backbone for Ohio State's staffing organizational structure in Workday. The third essential concept is academic foundations. Academic foundations address how academics are structured at Ohio State and include three main areas: academic unit, academic levels, and programs of study. Academic unit, or AU, is the foundational organization for Workday student, and academic unit structure refers to hierarchical structure of colleges and departments at the university. Academic appointments are tied to academic units, and academic appointments are tied to academic units instead of to supervisory organizations. So workers with an academic position will have an academic appointment tied to an academic unit in addition to a position that's tied to the supervisory organization. So if you take away anything about the Foundation Data Model, is that it is just that, a model. It represents how OSU will organize and manage data across the three areas of finance, HR, and student. And from a human resources lens, having the segregation of data between HR and finance, such as establishing employee records based on function and reporting relationships and not financial ownership, is a more modern and effective way to structure and manage this data. In effect, we have clean and distinct definitions and values, while still being able to appropriately leverage them across all functions. Okay, so let's discuss these three components of the Foundation Data Model and how they would apply to an employee. Specifically, how data on an employee is organized across these three components. We will use a fictional example of Dr. Hartman on your screen, who is an associate professor in the College of Engineering. Starting with the backbone of his record, Dr. Hartman's position of associate professor in the Department of Engineering will be tied to the supervisory organization of his manager. And if Dr. Hartman has direct reports, he will be a manager of his own supervisory organization. And in Workday, you must tie a cost center to each position to identify fiscal ownership. Dr. Hartman's position is tied to mechanical engineering. This shows that the financial ownership of Dr. Hartman's position belongs with mechanical engineering. So with the foundation data model, regardless of which department has financial ownership of the position, Dr. Hartman can still report to someone in a different department. And third, because Dr. Hartman has an academic position, such as a professor, he will also be assigned an academic appointment linked to his worker record in Workday. The academic appointment is distinct from his position. As a professor, for him to show up on the student course catalog to teach, he must have an academic appointment in the academic unit in which he is teaching. This is new and exciting functionality for OSU, as we do not have a link like this between our HR and student information system today. So much more about the financial and academic components of Workday will be shared in future communications and in training. But for the rest of this session, we're going to continue to focus on supervisory organizations. So even though supervisory organizations is a new term and different functionality, it's helpful to recognize that this is a more modern, organized, and singular way to structure and access managerial information. Across the university today, departments or units use the Reports to and Supervisor ID fields in PeopleSoft to identify supervisory information. However, in many instances, how we use or identify who our workers report to in the system is inconsistent, and often these are based on the home department for funding. Sup orgs in Workday will reflect true management reporting lines. A sup org can be a business unit, a department, a group, or a project team. Positions and compensation structures are associated with these supervisory organizations. So as we hire or move workers in and out of jobs at OSU, our supervisory organization structure will reflect the changes to provide you with an accurate and real-time representation of workers and to whom they report. Shortly, we will be diving further into the sup org structure you see on your screen as a part of our demonstration today. So we've talked about what a supervisory organization is and how it is a foundational component for HR in Workday. But what's the big deal? Well, not only are sup orgs going to provide greater clarity on how workers are functionally organized, they are essential to how different processes and transactions will route for review and approval in Workday. For example, having our reporting lines accurate will ensure the right manager is approving timesheets. And in addition, they provide the framework for assigning security roles and how we grant workers with access to view worker data or interact with it in the system. For example, an HR Generalist may have access to view all worker data across the university, but may only have access to transact on certain supervisory organizations. And each supervisory organization is the building block to ultimately create the entire university's organizational chart. Okay, so let's take a pause at this time, as the next thing we'll do is go into a demonstration environment. So I'm going to hand it over to William to take questions you have at this time.
Thanks, Amanda. So Amanda covered a lot of the core concepts related to the foundation data model and supervisory organizations. Before diving into a demonstration, we're going to stop and see if folks have any questions about what Amanda has covered so far. If so, you can please start typing in the chat. Okay, the first question, who will have access to view supervisory organization data? I'm going to ask Gina to answer this one.
Sure. So as far as being able to see the workers and what the supervisory org they might reside in, we foresee that the access to view where workers are will be quite open, and most individuals will be able to see, the managers an employee reports to and where that sort of resides within our whole organizational chart. As far as more detailed or behind the scenes maintenance and supervisory organization data that comes along with that, it'll probably be individuals who are supporting the system and individuals within the HR and also the finance areas who understand the interaction between all of the foundation data points in order to continue to maintain those organizations, create new ones, etc.
Great. Thanks, Gina.
Mm-hmm.
So next question comes from Stacy Brewer. Will soup orgs have assigned numbers like our org numbers or department numbers that we have today?
Sure, I can answer that one as well. There will be a reference ID tied to each supervisory org. So a supervisory org will have a name as well as a reference ID, and I think that we are in conversations about whether those reference IDs will be brand new in Workday or whether or not we would use existing numbers. But I believe the trend so far with other data points is that we're using new sequencing numbers, but there will be a reference ID for each of those.
Great. And what about our OSU ID? Will those still be used?
Does that mean like an employee ID, an OSU employee ID?
Let's go with that.
Yes, so our employee IDs will still be used. People who are current employees and have an employee ID will, I believe, maintain their current ID number. And then for any new individuals, we will have a numbered sequencing similar to today.
Great. And we'll take our last question before moving into the demonstration environment. Will the eVerify page be changed to incorporate Workday?
So I will attempt to answer this. I could interpret this a number of different ways. In the future in Workday, we will utilize their Form I-9 and e-verification integration that they have built into it. So individuals who have to complete Form I-9s will go ahead and utilize that in Workday. And then I believe the database that individuals may be used to using today who process Form I-9s will still exist for historical or in-flight Form I-9s.
Great. Thanks, Gina. And just a reminder for everyone that our intent today is to cover some of those basic aspects of both the foundation data model and supervisory organizations. And just to note that we are still building Ohio State's Workday prototype, and a lot of these specific questions about what's changing can likely be addressed later this year as we move into testing our Workday environment. So with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Amanda to keep us going into our demonstration.
Okay, sounds good. All right, so while I've shared a lot of new jargon and conceptual information with all of you, I want to go into a Workday demonstration environment to give you more of the look and feel that you're probably craving about this topic. So remember, for now, this will be a fictitious demonstration environment for a fictitious university. So the data you see, such as names or titles, is not going to be representative of OSU data. Okay, so let's jump in. And welcome back to the Workday homepage. I am currently logged in as Jill Jones. Jill is the Vice President for Human Resources for this university. And let's quickly recap a few items from the Workday 101 demonstration you attended back in December. Across the top of the home page, you will always find this bar. You can see my mouse moving along with it. This contains easy navigation icons. such as, going back to the left side, the Home button. No matter where you are in Workday, you can return to the home page by clicking on the block O. Next is the search field. Here you can search for workers, reports, and all sorts of data based on your security access. And going back over to the far right are icons to access your Workday account details, such as your inbox, and navigating to the worker profile. So before we start navigating to supervisory organization data in here, I want to review a few characteristics about Jill Jones. Because of her role in human resources, she has HR level access in Workday, allowing her to view job and personal information on workers across the system. In addition, Jill is a manager, and she has 6 workers reporting to her. Because Jill has direct reports, she will have access to view and take action on her direct reports and job-related information about them. Okay, so one way that Jill can view her supervisory organization is by navigating to her worker profile. So to access her worker profile, I will click on her picture on the right side of the screen and select View Profile. So from here, you're now seeing Jill Jones's worker profile. I'll scroll down to give you a look. And before I navigate to her supervisory organization org chart, notice that her worker profile is comprised of job information, and also she'll have access to view personal information as well. Okay, I'll go back to the summary page. Another quick feature to point out is that anything blue means you can do. So you can hover over to click the hyperlink, or you can click into our handy related actions icon. As introduced to you in the Workday 101 session, you will encounter the related actions icon throughout Workday. Clicking on this will open a window to grant you quick access to tasks or actions to take right from where you are. Probably one of my favorite features in Workday. Okay, let's navigate to view Jill's team, or again, her supervisory organization. So I'm going to go to scroll up here to get a better view, and I'm going to click on the team icon. Here you will see Jill and her 6 direct reports organized in an org chart view. A benefit of navigating to Jill's direct reports this way is that it allows her to continue to navigate the supervisory organization hierarchy. So I can navigate to the superior supervisory organization by clicking this up arrow. In doing this, I see Jill's manager, Patrick Gregory's supervisory organization, comprised of his direct reports. And here you will notice, sorry, I'll scroll up a little bit, that Jill is a member of Patrick's supervisory organization next to her peers, who also report to Patrick. Something important to note is that Jill is not a part of the supervisory organization she manages. She's a member of her manager's supervisory organization. So I'm going to navigate back down to Jill's supervisory organization. And to navigate to subordinate organizations, I can click on one of Jill's direct reports here. But before I do that, you will notice the numbers in orange. These signify the number of people reporting to each of these workers. It also denotes that they each have their own supervisory organization. So I'm going to click on Leslie Wong to view her team. All of Leslie's direct reports listed here are considered individual contributors, meaning they do not have people reporting to them and will not have a number like Leslie. Therefore, there are no additional subordinate soup orgs below Leslie's team. I'll also point out that in this view of the supervisory organization, we can see that Leslie has an open position or a vacant position on her team. When someone is hired into this position, it will update to reflect the new worker instantaneously. I think having line of sight to this at our fingertips is a big win for HR. All right, so I'm going to navigate back up to Jill's supervisory organization. And another neat feature about the org chart view is that I can export this. Yes, you heard me right. And if you love org charts or you potentially spend hours making or updating them, I think you're going to love this feature. So give me a couple seconds to export this into a PDF view for us to take a look at. All right, I'm going to open the downloaded PDF. And here it is, an exported version of Jill's org chart. And I'm not done just yet. Remember, I mentioned that anything blue in Workday means you can do? Well, because this is a dynamic PDF, I can do the same thing here. So if I go to Leslie Wong and I hover over Director, Talent Acquisitions, let's click it. And it takes me to the page in the PDF to represent further Leslie's org chart. I was really excited about this functionality, so I'm hoping you are thinking the same thing too. All right, I'm going to exit out of the PDF and go back to the Workday environment. And now I'm going to navigate to another worker to view their supervisory organization org chart similar to Jill. And I'm also going to show you another way to view this information, so not looking at it in an org chart structure. And instead of looking at someone on Jill's team, I'm going to look at one of the deans that Jill supports, David Bessick. David is the Dean of the College of Arts and Sciences. And one way that I can get to David Bessick is to search for him in the search bar. I'll click his name, and it's going to take me to David's profile. And from here, I'm going to navigate to that same team icon. And similar to Jill's org chart, you see David Bessick with his direct reports. And I can also again navigate to the Superior Supervisory Organization, where I see that David is reporting to his manager, John Metcalf. Let's navigate back to David's worker profile, and I'll do that by clicking the back arrow. Another way that we can access supervisory organization information on a worker, such as David, is on the summary page, which we're currently looking at now. And we can go to the top by clicking the supervisory organization listed here. This organization listed on David's summary page represents the soup org that he is a member of, not the one that he's a manager of. In this scenario, the College of Arts and Sciences sits within or rolls up to academic affairs. So, by navigating into the supervisory organization here, I'll click, we can see by navigating here, we see David's manager's supervisory organization in a different view. So I'll scroll down a little bit here. On this page, again, we're looking at information for Academic Affairs Supervisory Organization. And of the subordinates listed here, you will see the College of Arts and Sciences is one of them. Also, in scrolling down the page, on the left-hand side, underneath the members column, which is open, you can see that David Bessick is listed as a member here of his manager's supervisory organization amongst the same peers we saw in the org chart view. Also, you might be noticing there's basic information about each of these workers also listed in this view of the supervisory organization. Okay, so let's say that Jill, again, she has HR access in Workday. Let's say she wants to pull a report on all workers in academic affairs, including all of the workers in subordinate supervisory organizations, and not just within this one supervisory organization. She does not have to navigate to a different website for this, and rather, she can quickly access a report in Workday by clicking on the Related Actions icon of the Academic Affairs Supervisory Organization to generate this data. And this Actions button you see here, even though it looks different, it is the same as the orange Related Action icon I showed you a bit earlier. So from here, I can click Actions and navigate down to, scroll down a little bit, to Reports, and I'll select Current Worker Detail Report. From here, I will note which date I want the data to be representative of on my report. So I'll just pick today's date. And I'm also going to select Include Subordinate Organizations. In selecting this, it will pull in all workers in any supervisory organization below in the hierarchy I'm looking at. The great thing is that many reports in Workday will have the subordinate checkbox feature as well. And for the sake of time today, I'm not going to open and discuss this report, but more information about reports in Workday will be shared as we get closer to go live and in other sessions. So at this time, I'm going to cancel and discard, and I'm going to navigate back to Jill Jones's home page by clicking on the block O in the left corner of your screen. Okay, so one final item about supervisory organizations I want to introduce today is the common scenario of a worker holding more than one job at OSU. We know this is common, especially in our student population. So when a worker, for example, has 2 jobs reporting to 2 different managers, they will be a part of or members of 2 separate supervisory organizations. Let's take a look at an example of a worker with 2 jobs. And I'm going to navigate back to Leslie Wong. She was a member of Jill's team. I know that she has an employee with 2 jobs. So I'm going to navigate to Leslie by finding her in the search bar. I'll click her name. And I'm going to navigate back to her team icon. And again, it's going to take me to her supervisory organization. And I'll select her employee, Daniel Birch. On his worker profile, you will see that Daniel is an administrative assistant, and he reports to Leslie. You can see Leslie is listed as a manager on his worker profile. And next to Daniel's title, you will notice this double arrow feature. This signifies that Daniel has more than one job. His primary job will always show up first when you navigate to the worker profile. And to navigate to the secondary job, we just click the double arrow and we'll select his second job of payroll clerk. When I do this, you are now looking at the worker profile for his secondary job of payroll clerk. Also, this plus sign you see here next to his title signifies that this is his secondary or additional job. Daniel's second job is reporting to a different manager, Dolores Warren, and he will also be represented in Dolores's supervisory organization. So I can access Dolores's Sup Org by clicking on the Related Actions icon next to her name. And from here, I'll select View Team. And there you have it. Daniel Birch is showing on Dolores's Sup Org in his secondary position of payroll clerk. Okay. This concludes our demonstration in the Workday environment today about supervisory organizations. And as you take away information shared today, much of it new and different, but hopefully it's exciting. Our hope is that you can leave this session having an introductory understanding of how data will be organized in Workday and what a supervisory organization is. More formal training will be provided closer to Workday Go Live on the content shared today. And also note that more sessions will be held to dive deeper into other FDM components and much more. So I'll hand it back over to William.
Great. Thank you, Amanda. Appreciate that demonstration of supervisory organizations. If folks have questions about the content that Amanda showed you, please take the time now to start typing in those questions, and we will address them as they come in. One question did come in during the demonstration to ask if there was a way to get annual salary data included on those auto-generated org charts. And the response to that, Pam, as I wrote, is that more specific details on how Ohio State will use that auto-generated org chart feature will be available a little bit closer to go live. So just keep a hold of that question for a little bit longer. I'm going to move on to the next one that came in. Will the Sup Org include all types of employees?
Yeah, I can go ahead and take that. All employees will be included in supervisory orgs. You will learn more about different types of employees and how that will be represented in a future staffing model session that I believe is slated to happen here in the future.
Great, thank you. Amanda asked if there will be a recording of this presentation. Yes, there will be. We are recording both versions or sessions of this information, and one will be shared after the last session in a forthcoming HR Now. So look for that. We'll share a slide and a recording, just like we did for Workday 101. But moving on, it looks like we have two similar questions. I'm looking at Gina maybe for help here. So questions about how both dual reporting lines and dotted lines might appear in a Sup Org structure.
Sure. So in Workday, there is a functionality called matrix orgs or matrix organizations. We foresee that we will utilize that functionality. We have not explored it at in any depth. So I don't know how individuals will actually look and be represented, but I believe using that functionality is how an individual with dual reporting lines, how that will be actually recorded and represented in Workday. I just don't know quite how it'll look.
Great. So stay tuned for that one.
Yep.
Will the org chart be available for a whole college?
Yes. So you and Amanda produced that org chart for the sake of time pretty quickly. But when you go to export, you have an option of choosing a certain number of levels down, 1, 2, 3, 20, or all. So a person could literally start with President Drake and select all layers, and you would have a PDF of the entire OSU organization. It would be quite a large document, but it is possible to do that.
Great, thank you. Another question coming in, how will a joint academic appointment between colleges be represented?
So I would actually recommend that this topic be covered and addressed in a later academic session. I believe that those of us in the room are probably not as closely tied to that area and don't want to misspeak. So that would probably be something that we can definitely take back to the academics team and make sure that they cover it in later sessions.
Great, thanks, Gina. This reminds me that one of our earlier slides was showing kind of those Workday core concepts that we're going to cover with the HR community over the next several months. And we did identify academic appointments in those structures as one of those core concepts. So look forward to a session just like this dedicated to that topic. I'm going to take a quick pause and see if more questions are coming in. See a few folks are typing, so we're going to let them finish as they're typing. Okay, will any employee be able to see an org chart, or just those perhaps with HR access?
We foresee that any employee would be able to see an org chart. They would see very minimal information on other employees, but at this point in time, we don't see a reason to restrict that ability to see that organization chart. And then, of course, HRPs should be able to see a little bit more information if they kind of dive into those org charts.
Great. And just like the academic appointments, how security and information that you can see versus do, how that works in Workday is also one of those core concepts that we've identified for a future deep dive session with this community. All right, another question about the org chart functionality. Can we manipulate the information that appears on the org chart so we can print it to meet individual reporting needs? Thank you, Stacy. Really appreciate that question. That's kind of similar to my earlier response in how we're still figuring out how Ohio State's going to specifically leverage some of the functionality, both within the org chart and Workday reports. And this might fall somewhere within the middle of those two. So I would look for more detailed information on how you can manipulate those reports or the org chart as we get closer to go live. So keep a hold of that question.
And can I ask a really quick question? I know we had a lot of people register and call in, but you may be sitting in a room with more, a couple other people on your team listening in. So if you have, if you're a group listening, can you share how many people are in the room, just so we have a pulse on more of the exact number of people listening versus who might have registered? So if you can send that through the chat quick, that'd be great too.
Folks who are hosting watch parties.
Watch parties, yes.
That's crazy information. Yes, it's really helpful for us to have a solid understanding of the attendees here so we can track the reach of this content across the HR community. All right. With that, we just want to say thank you for taking the time to tune in to one of our first Workday core concepts covering Foundation Data Model and Supervisory Organizations. If you haven't already, I strongly encourage you to subscribe to the monthly Enterprise Project Digest, where we're sharing information about Workday and other enterprise project updates, including HR service delivery. The link is available there on your screen. You can also easily access Enterprise Project Digest on the Enterprise Project website, enterprise-project.osu.edu, and you're always welcome to contact us at the email listed on your screen, enterprise-project@osu.edu, if you have any questions about enterprise project initiatives or content. With that, we're going to say thank you for everyone's time today, and we will see you at our next core concept session. Thank you.